We used to play school football against each other.
He turned into a bit of a jersey filler.
We were part-time, getting paid 18 quid a week.
He was always prepared to do what was needed. He worked in Hampden in the Scotland kit room and commercial ticket office.
It was incredible. He just used to hit the byline, front post, tapping.
At that point we were in a digs, so there was 18 boys all staying in the big house. Everyone just stood up and thought, wow, he's special.
It was too good to be true what I'd seen, really.
He said, I've seen a young left-back who's like Billy Whiz. Who the hell is Billy Whiz?
I'm going to be able to go past him, he's not going to cause me too many issues. And he gave me a hard time going both ways.
The bigger the challenge, I think, with Andy, the better he becomes. He's gone and he's shone straight away.
What we've got in that group led by Robbo is no egos, humble guys, all want to do well for their country and all living our dream.
Liverpool is a different beast. The pressure, the media, the fan base.
That was the moment when the penny dropped for him. From that day on, he became the best left back in the world.
He's certainly Liverpool's best left back and he's certainly Scotland's best left back that I've ever seen.
A record setter, trophy winner, changed the trajectory of the city, not just the club.
He's someone I've learned so much of, not just as a footballer but as a person. If you went round and asked all the staff, all the players, what has Andy done for you, there'd be so many different stories.
It's not just a question of Andy Robertson was born and he was a boss footballer and it all came to him easy. None of that.
It's got to be one of the sort of best stories ever about never giving up.
I'm proud of him, but much more important, I hope he is proud of himself.
The typical Scot Liverpool has been very blessed with having, of coming to our place, settling in and being one of us.
Signing Robbo taught me so much, because the thing is, you see a player, don't know the man, the boy that time maybe, you don't know him, so you see a player, you watch the videos, and when you saw Robbo at Hull playing and you saw his potential offensively and you saw his weaknesses, he was involved in so many goals Hull conceded on his far post. It's like crazy, it's like he's not there. And then we had a conversation in my house in Formby. Robbo came with his agent and we had a great talk. You can't imagine today, but a really shy boy, really didn't speak a lot. It's so funny when you think back on that. And I told him, so I like everything about what you're doing offensively. And I don't think I like anything of the things you do defensively. So if we agree on working on that and you pay completely in and stuff like that, then we will have a lot of fun together. And yeah.
Well, I just walked out that house and just thought, I need everything I can to play for that manager, and I want everything I do to play for Liverpool. In terms of even my debut at Crystal Palace, I think the fans took to me pretty early, which was, an amazing feeling. I think they probably seen a player that would probably play exactly like them if they get given the chance. But then obviously the next 3-4 months were a bit difficult in terms of not playing, trying to get up to speed, and obviously things were happening in the background to then make me, when the opportunity came to fly.
Liverpool is a different beast compared to a lot of clubs. Even when I was coming from Sunderland, it was a big step up for me. And also when you're coming from a club like Hull, with all due respect, Liverpool is just in a different world in terms of everything, the pressure, the media, the fan base. Everyone says that, but when you actually arrive at the club, I think it's different. And I think you still see that now with like top players. They'll still need that adjustment, will still need a bit of time. I can see what's going on in the background. He's out on his own doing 1v1 training with the coaches. He's doing crossing on his own, working on his crossing, and he's preparing himself for when he gets that opportunity.
I was guilty of, when I first came to the club, I seen myself still as an opposition. You know what I mean? I came in and I'm looking at Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, Bobby Firmino, and I still looked at them going, okay, I'm playing against these guys. Whereas I had to start believing, no, these are my teammates and I'm going to start playing with them. And I think it was more a belief thing than anything. You know what I mean? The manager and his coaches done a good job in terms of telling me, what I had to do in terms of a fullback, when to press, when to jump, all these little things that made Jurgen Klopp the manager that he is. But For me, it was more just trying to believe that I was a Liverpool player. Do you know what I mean? I had to find that belief that I was at one of the best clubs in the world.
He came in my office and said, "Boss, I'm working really hard every day, I don't get a chance." And I said, "Oh, I'm really surprised you are here because we had the agreement. You start thinking like a defender, and that's the first step we have to do. You still defend like a striker. On that position, it's not possible. Yeah. So what do I have to do? Oh, I told you already. Yeah, you have to be closer." And we spoke about these kind of things. We spoke plenty of times, but then, like the last time we spoke about it. And that was the moment when the penny dropped for him. The next day, training looked completely different. I'm pretty sure he would say the same. If he wouldn't have done that, you stay on a specific level. I mean, from that day on, he became, for a while, definitely the best left back in the world.
I always felt as though Robbo would sort of rise to the occasion in big games and things like that against top players. He came up some big challenges, but I always felt with Robbo, he loved the challenge.
One of Millie's favourite sayings was always, "Somebody go and set the tone." And I always took that a bit personal because I always knew in every game I could set the tone. I always knew, like, if I'd done the first press right or I'd done the first action right, that I could get the fans with me. That was always the pressure I put on myself because I knew we had fantastic players that could look after the rest, but I always remembered at that time I always put a big pressure on myself to do the first thing right.
And I think that was just one of them moments in a big game against City. He saw an opportunity to just keep going on the press, and I can remember the stadium after that was electric.
He was everywhere causing chaos, and that's like a perfect example of, I think he pressed from left back, left wing, keeper, there left back, wasn't it? He sort of went on, I can remember it.
Well, you only have to look at the Barcelona game, you know, you could freeze in those moments and almost give too much respect to these players, but he's coming in and, you know, giving Messi a little slap around the head.
You know, obviously you've just, you know, kind of pushed the best player to, maybe the best player to ever play the game's head, which isn't always great, and it's not great to look back on now, but
we're in the final and you're not, and I'm letting you know on the way that we're going past you, not just to any winger, not just to any forward, to Lionel Messi. It just sums up the attitude that you should have. Controlled aggression and a respectful arrogance. I think you've got to have both of those things to be a great.
The way the fans reacted to that was as if we were at 3-3. Do you know what I mean? And I think then we go and score a couple of minutes later and the place just lifted off. And I do think that affected their team.
That's kind of Robbo understanding the game within the game, I think. Like a big night like that when we needed something, maybe a miracle, something completely out of the box. Just a little thing like that sparked a whole reaction in that game and the fans, and we needed the fans that night.
When Divock scored, I think it was, what, 86, 87 minutes maybe. At that moment, you know that we weren't going to mess up. At that time, we had the best goalie in the world that was keeping clean sheets for fun. Virgil, me, Trent, Joel, Joey Gomez was maybe on the pitch at that point. Like, there was no way we were conceding goals. We still had Hendo on the pitch, we had Millie on the pitch at that time. So, like, when you go 2-0 up, there's no way, like, we were going to throw it away. We were too mature of a team at that point. The feeling, the emotion you had, the people you were maybe thinking about that weren't there with you, the people that were there with you. I knew obviously my wife was up in the stand, my little son was in the stand, my mum and dad, my brother. Then when the final whistle came, it's just, I always remember me and Millie hugging each other on the floor, and it was just the best feeling ever. Especially from 12 months before, you obviously lose out on it and you think, will you ever get another chance? To be back in it the next year and to take it a step further. And it was more just the joy you could see on everyone's faces. Do you know what I mean? I think, like, you could see, everyone could see how happy we were. But I think the most pleasing thing for us was, like, how happy we could see other people were and how much it meant to them. Do you know what I mean? I think that was just the cherry on top of the cake of the 24 hours we just had. You know, for us, we're delighted that we are champions of Europe. For our families, we're delighted we're champions of Europe. But then to come back to your own city and to do that parade, it was on a different level. And yeah, I think we were on the bus for about 4.5, 5 hours in the end, and it just flew by, and it was the best time of our lives. I first signed, when you bumped into you guys or Scousers around the place, like you could feel the desperation of them wanting a Premier League. You know what I mean? That was the one thing that I remember when I first moved here and I'm in the Titanic Hotel and anyone you bring the Premier League on, and I'm thinking, they're obsessed with the Premier League, aren't they? Like, and then you start realising why, do you know what I mean? Because it had been such a long time and things like that.
Maybe this is the moment when we can maybe speak about that. We had the Aston Villa game. The Aston Villa game.
When Liverpool are in this race with Man City, it literally feels like if you start the game off and it's 0-0, you're already 2 points short. The moment the referee blows the whistle, you're 2 points shorter than you need. You're up against this multi-million-pound, fantastic coach Pep, all these players, the style that they're playing, and they just win and they win and they win and they win. And is there an end in sight? Someone's got to exhaust this other team. Someone's got to drive them into the floor. Someone's got to get them where Man City are starting to feel like we're kicking off 2 points short.
I mean, I don't think they ever really loved coming to Villa Park. Even in the years where they were sweeping teams aside, we always gave them a tough game.
It's really funny because half-time, massive argument in the dressing room. So Sadio and Robbo, playing on the same wing. No, you don't say fuck you to me, you don't say Sadio. And Robbo, I said fuck off, Sadio, stop it. I said fuck off. And then, no, you said fuck.
It was a miscommunication. It was a language barrier thing. Sadio thought I said one thing, I definitely didn't say that. Sadio obviously has the emotional character he is. Usually I was the one trying to back him up, but at this point I was kind of on the back foot. I'm thinking, what did I do here? Because usually I'm the one trying to, on the pitch, try to calm him down and help him. And
I come in and stop it.
I think the gaffer had enough and he said, well, you both shut up now. And we both just sat there like good little boys, I think.
So in that moment, it was more or less, can you really play together the second half on one wing? Is that possible? Or what do we have to change? No, it's fine, it's fine.
After legging it up and down the pitch for 87 minutes, he's still going. He's still going. He's going more than anybody else.
And then for him to pop up at the back post and score sort of just shows that's when you need big players and big characters like that.
That was a big moment for him, I think, and for us as a team in that time of the season.
And I still remember the way we celebrated the goal. So get the ball out of the net in an away game at Aston Villa and go back to halfway line and come on, let's go for the win. We had some of these kind of mentality monsters. I'm not sure they were all before we came together, but they had it in them, and they showed up as that then. So like him, Millie, Hendo, Adam, and we had a lot of these kind of a genie. In the moment they realized we are really good, they gave it the extra spark, and Robbo gave it the extra spark. Like, okay, we are good, yeah, we all know, but now we have to make it click.
Liverpool's greatest calendar year was 2019. So they win the big cup, they win the Club World Championship and score 1 million points. And then obviously more important things than football come in and we've got a pandemic and there you go, and so they don't get the chance to celebrate it. So that just increases the appetite, keeps it going forward, because then you've got a generation of fans who thought they'd never see it, and now they're watching it, now they believe in it, and they knew they could get it, and now they knew it was a procession, and now they don't get the chance to be in the stadium.
I think I always look back on that season as well as obviously the pandemic, put life to a halt, but I'm so glad we had the Man United at home moment, because I think that was the moment we had with the fans where everyone in the stadium believed, this is it, we've won the league. You guys all started singing, we're going to win the league.
That team proved itself to be the greatest team in the world. You got Man City at that time dominating the Premier League, and Real Madrid at that time dominating the European Cup. Liverpool won the Premier League and the European Cup during that era.
It felt really big and important that he got to win the league at Anfield with the fans, because he's probably the biggest scouser you'll ever meet that isn't actually from the city. Like, he just feels like the one that we all want to be having a pint with after the game.
I was surrounded by people who were very emotional. There was parents' ashes in the Kop that day. So to me, it's more about the fans and the colour and all that thing. But Of all of the players I've seen lifting the trophy, you're looking at Mo, for example, and you say, well, what a fitting way that he's deserved that in front of the crowd, the great pleasure he's brought us. Then you look at the goalie sitting on the crossbar, and you're thinking about all these things.
That day will never be topped. I don't think it was so incredible. Just going about the pitch, hugging everyone. Didn't even know what was going on. I just see red everywhere. There's flares going off everywhere.
Virgil can't play left back. And Virgil's playing in the middle. Mo can't play left back. You know, all these great players that we've had, you know, doing all these things. We needed the best left back to give us the best of times. And seeing him with the trophy, it was nothing more fitting.
Two things: we want to make our family proud and we want to make our fans happy. That for me is the two most important things. So all my family's in the stadium, they're obviously stood up there, you know, proud. But then you see how you know, when I'm looking up to the Kop, you see how everyone's reacting, and I'm seeing granddads, dads and sons hugging each other, or I'm seeing grands, mums and daughters hugging each other, and you see how much it means to the people.
For that to be able to happen in a player like Andy Robertson, who'd been there from the start of it, just felt like a real full circle moment.
Of course it was amazing. It's easy to say it was amazing when we're winning Premier League and we're winning Champions League or FA, whatever it may be. But it was, for me, looking back, it was like who that was with. To win it with people like Robbo was the most special thing.
I'm very thankful for the time we had together, and that's something you only realize when you are not in it anymore, because when you work together you are not happy with everything they are doing, because you should win this challenge, this cross should be better, and these kind of things. It's so much better when you look back on it, and then it's all positive. And it is all positive. As a long period of time that we maybe had the best time of our lives.
The Scotland 21s was probably the first time we actually played together. I think he's got 4 caps or something. It's something ridiculously low anyway. I can't remember if I was in the squad. I don't think I was in the 21 squad. He ended up training with the first team because he wasn't getting a game for the 21s, and that's where all the doors started to open for him.
I think Gordon Strachan must take a lot of credit as well for putting him in when he saw him in training and then bringing him into the squad. So, you know, he obviously saw something there in Andy that meant that he deserved the opportunity.
The one thing that was consistent for me was I wanted to play for my country. And to play for my country was good enough. Do you know what I mean? That was that for me. Once I got my cap, I wanted more, of course I did, but I was like, I've achieved my lifetime goal of playing for my country.
I remember just watching matches, both at Hampden and on TV if it was away games, and just seeing him in full flight was pretty impressive. As opposed to the other players he was playing with, I just remember thinking, well, he's pretty decent. He wasn't obviously captain or anything like that for Scotland at that point, but he had a leadership about him.
At that time there was a little bit of apathy around the Scotland squad because it hadn't been very successful. But immediately when I met Andy, I could see an enthusiasm to be there, to be successful as a Scotland player.
It didn't surprise me that clubs like Liverpool were hovering. Even though I was not there, I had a few phone calls about him. What's this young Scottish fullback like? And at the time I thought, wow, it's a bit early for him to go to a club like Liverpool with the demands on you. However, a bit like when he's gone to Hull and all his career, he's gone and he's shone straight away, hasn't he? The bigger the challenge, I think, with Andy, the bigger the challenge, the better he becomes. Stan was my chief scout at the time. And for anybody who doesn't know him, he's as mad as a box of frogs, but real football person who's been in the game all his life.
You know, have the conversation with Steve, what he's looking for, where we're up to. We signed a few players. I went up to Scotland. It was a Friday night match, and the match was at Kilmarnock. And I went watching a striker who was playing for Dundee United.
So typical Stan come back and said the centre forward wasn't much good, but he said, I've seen a young left back who was like Billy Whiz. I said, Billy Whiz? Who the hell is Billy Whiz?
They're playing again on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday at Hibernian. So I'm going to come back up and have another deco.
And after 10 minutes, Stan closed his book. He had this little notepad he always used to take. He closed his book. And my agent phoned me after it, and he's like, I don't think like Hull's going to be an option for you. Like, do you know what I mean? He closed his book quite early.
And I thought, it was too good to be true what I'd seen, really. See Steve the next day, and just, he says, you sure? I said, yeah, 100%.
Typical Stan comes back on the Tuesday, we've got to take this kid. He's exceptional, he's got great pace, great attitude, he's young, got a lovely left foot.
I think from different countries, and especially in Scotland, the Premier League's shown as this big league that, you know, so I was like, I've only been a pro for 1 year, am I really ready to make that step to the Premier League and things like that? So I was really uncertain at the time. I always remember it. I got a call off Steve Bruce, and I had a 20-minute call, and I remember when I came off the call, I turned to my agent and I went, let's get in the car, let's go. Because just the way he spoke, the way he spoke about me, the way he spoke about himself as well, and I was just like, nah, that's a manager I want to play for. And that night we headed down to Hull.
Any young player needs reassurance, and they need a pat on the back, and of course they need to be steered in the right direction in terms of how they live their life, what they do in the dark, all of these things of a young player. And with Andy in particular, it was very, very easy because, as I said, he was a given the first time I'd met him with his personality. I remember him walking in with his mum, holding his mum's hand in the training ground at Hull, thinking, dear me, he looks like a schoolboy. And it's very rare that you see it. And usually they're marching in with his agents, Liam and Ricky, you know. You could tell straight away that the kid's from a really good family, and it was one of them no-brainers really where, come on, come and have a go.
So Andy, welcome to the KC Stadium, an exciting challenge ahead.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm glad that it's over the line, and now I can just look forward to meeting the boys and getting down to training.
And I guess you've spoken to the manager, Steve Bruce. I mean, what did he have to say ahead of the move?
Yeah, I met with him yesterday. You know, he was very positive about his plans and everything he's got sorted for the club. So, you know, I was really excited when I came out after speaking to him, and, you know, I could have swung it.
I have to be brutally honest, I never thought I was going to play him against QPR in the first game of the season. But we did, because there was a couple of injuries and he had a wonderful debut. I think he cleared well off the line with about 10 minutes to go. I think we won the match. And really, he really started to establish himself straight away. That team I had in the Championship was arguably better than the one I had in the Premier League.
Yeah, that Championship season was massive for me. We obviously got promoted through the playoffs, which is one of the best feelings ever, and it ended in a high, and we ended up back in the Premier League. So I always look back on that second season going, that was massive for me.
The Championship brought him to life because the one thing, his big strength is the ability to get up and down the pitch and put crosses into the box. We wanted to encourage our fullbacks to get forward. You know, when you're in the Premier League, you didn't want Andy galloping up there because it left a little bit of hole.
I remember playing against him. He looks quite unassuming. As a player, you don't expect. You know, when I didn't know him, when he was at Hull, I didn't know too much about him. I sort of thought, I'm going to be able to go past him. He's not going to cause me too many issues. Looks a bit unsuspecting. And then when he was some of the toughest games I played against, he doesn't care who you are. You know, at the time I was sort of the Arsenal winger, and he was a bit younger than me coming in at Hull, and he gave me a hard time going both ways every time I played him.
In the big games, that's what, you know, being able to handle it, even though he was only young, he'd become established by the time he was 21. The semi-final, he was sensational against Derby. Scores a great goal from 20-odd yards, which set us on the way. And that one and the final proved to me that he's a big-time player. You probably knew then that this kid's going to have a wonderful career.
I'd had a meeting with my agents to say, okay, well, you know, this summer, realistically, we need to move, and where are we going to go? And I always remember saying to my agent, I says, forget Liverpool. I says, Liverpool are not there, right? I says, this is the dream, but they're not there. We might need to make a next step. So we had this hour meeting, and I think it was about 55 minutes into the meeting. Barry Hunter phoned my agent and said, yeah, we're really interested in him. Jurgen wants to meet him at a time and things like that. And I thought, well, we've just discussed 55 minutes. We can throw that in the bin. We're going to Liverpool.
Well, funny story actually, before Stan had kind of came and watched me in the January, Roberto Martinez had came up and watched me, and he was the Everton manager at the time. I was going to be back up to Leighton Baines, and then, you know, obviously Leighton Baines was going to go, and I was hopefully then going to take over and things like that. And Everton actually bid for me when I was at Dundee United in the January. I think they bid, I think it was like 700 grand or whatever. Dundee United said they wanted 1.5 million, Everton started laughing, and I think that was the end of the negotiation. So obviously the way everything's turned out, I'm glad that never happened, because I don't think I'd be sitting here today. You know, you'd probably hate me instead of...
Aye, so we signed the same day. There's photos, two of us look so young. I travelled up with his mum and his dad. They took me through there. It was so exciting for us because it's all new, and it's all you go for Queen's Park, which you're not expected much to Dundee, and it's probably back then it was probably like the two of us were going to Liverpool back then. It was so big for us.
At that point we were in a digs, so there was 18 boys, all staying in the big house, looked after by one woman. We heard we were signing obviously these two lads from Queen's Park, Aidan Conley and Andy Robertson. And he came in, he was pretty quiet, sung The Gambler in front of everyone. That's his go-to karaoke song. And then we got a flat and we moved out, four of us moved out the digs and into a flat down by the water.
You know, especially the lads that were in the flat with me, Joe McGovern, John Suter, Ryan Gold. We were just young. Me and Joe were the oldest. Then we had John and Ryan, and even on days off we used to just go down the local park.
I don't know if you've seen the photo, we used to go down to the Dundee, it was at the Tayside, and they used to have kickaboos, and that's how much energy Andy always had. He was always out playing, even when that was your day off or whatever, you're meant to rest, and he was just constantly burning energy.
We ended up getting the lads that were in the digs down, and we ended up having like a 7-a-side match on the grass on our day off, which I don't think the manager was best pleased with.
You're young, you don't care about anything, you're enjoying it, you're having a few beers in the flat after games. You're living like you're young, you know what I mean? There's no care, we'd be going out as mates. We're just having the time of our lives, there was no pressure, no stress.
He's panicked, he's panicked, and his mum's cut it and he's not happy with it. I don't know if his mum actually knows this, but he actually went to the hairdressers and got it fixed.
It was pre-season game and we had just signed, and we played 4-4 away. And I just remember I was playing in front of him in the game, or I come on as a sub or whatever, and I just remember thinking, he's too good not to play here.
They were more often than not successful against us. They had Robbo, John Suter, Ryan Gold, Stuart Armstrong, Mackay Stephen, Chifchi, and Dundee United has got a hill, and they always used to tear us apart down the hill.
There's like a slope at Dundee United, and at the time everyone just called it the Robbo. But like get to the second half and Robbo would just go.
On yourself.
That must have been his third or fourth game, and then after that he just took off and eventually played for Scotland that season. That he went from basically playing amateur up here equivalent for Queen's Park, not getting paid, to then playing Scotland within, I think it was like 6 months, maybe just over 6 months. Everyone just sort of stood up and thought, wow, he's special.
It was one of the best years, you know, ever, in terms of like, we were just a lot of young lads with, you know, quite a lot of talent and potential as well, which was the best thing. And I think you could see every day that we were getting better and better. And, you know, one of us would maybe get called up to the Scotland squad, would be buzzing for them, then the next person would get... And I think in that year a lot kind of happened, and but we also knew that this was just kind of the start of all our journeys.
14 months ago, if you'd said that to me, I would have laughed at you, but you know, now it's become my reality, and now I just have to try and deal with it going down there, and you know, living much further away from home and things like that. But no, I'm relishing it and looking forward to it, and I just want to get started now, you know, now that I've said the goodbyes to all the people up here.
He came at the Scotland camp, he had to come in right away basically. I think he stayed the night with us and then came in the next day, and he had his Champions League medal on, and at that point there was nobody near that level at Scotland. So for him to come back, win the Champions League, come back, I think he scored as well. I think it was the gaffer's first camp.
I thought when he did that in the first game that was it. Oh, Andy will chip in regularly with a goal or two, but nah, it didn't quite work out that way. But it was nice to start on a win, and it was nice of the captain to score a goal in that game. But like I said, it took him a long time to get his next one.
He went from Hull to Liverpool and things were just going like that. So he was a bit cheekier back then, I'll admit that. But then you realise deep down, unbelievable guy, extremely loyal, humble, hard-working, good to be around.
I would say when I kind of joined up with the national team at the start, it's much different now for what the manager and him have kind of built. Like,
the squad's been much the same, so it kind of becomes a club away from the club, and that's what kind of makes it enjoyable. You get to know people in a more personal way. It's no changing faces all the time, and I think that's been really important for the success that everybody's had.
I think you'll speak to anybody, they love going away, like can't wait to get away with Scotland.
Now when you get called up to the squad, it's a case you can't wait to go and meet up and be a part of it.
This is probably Scotland's golden generation of the last 20, 30 years in terms of we've qualified for 3 tournaments, and for me to be able to lead them and have such a good group of lads behind me, it's been a massive honour for me, and it's something that I'll always look back on with huge pride. I would still put that the biggest achievement of my career.
What we've got in that group led by Robbo is just no egos, humble guys, all want to do well for their country and all living our dream in different ways.
As a head coach, I'm a little bit standoffish. I try and stay away from the group. I like the group to police themselves. I like the more senior players in the group to be the ones that lead that. I just feel it works better. As the captain, Andy was on them all the time about standards and training. Don't drop your standard. And you can feel that Andy was coaching the next generation.
Even when he was winning Champions Leagues and winning Premier Leagues with Liverpool, he never felt he was above anyone in the squad, and that's the greatest quality you can have as a teammate.
With no disrespect to some of the players that I've got in my squad who are not top level players, who play at maybe English Championship, Scottish Premier League. What Andy was very good at is going in there and convincing those players who maybe felt, oh, there's English Premier League players, or there's Andy Robertson, he's won the Champions League. Andy was very good at making those players feel part of the group. Tell them, no, you deserve to be here. So if you deserve to be here, play to the best you can. And if Andy's doing that for them, I'm telling them the same thing, and I'm picking them, I'm trusting those players to play and find a level that maybe they don't always reach in their club career.
For not just me as mate, but the full Scotland to be like, you've got a Champions League winner in our squad. And I think as a group, having someone like that and having that experience and seeing that level probably drove us as a squad to the next level.
We used to play a lot of friendly fixtures, St Mirren against Queen's Park. And at that point, if you watched that game, St Mirren Queen's Park, and you would have said 2 of these lads would play in the Premier League, I'd have probably been close to the bottom of the list at St Mirren, and Rob would have been close to the bottom of the list at Queen's Park.
I was actually speaking to one of the Celtic youth coaches that worked with Andy, and he'd mentioned that there's a few boys getting released at under 14s level. We were his sort of local club because he lived nearby in the area, so there was various benefits of coming to ourselves. It was handy for training and games. And speaking to Andy initially, Andy's mum and dad, he needed time to get over, being released by Celtic.
As like much as we'd been released for bigger clubs, and we all kind of found ourselves at Queen's Park. It was a kind of family club that was giving everybody an opportunity at that stage, and I think that was probably what Robbo felt. He felt that comfort. All the boys there are off working class families, and it was just a really good place to be and develop as young footballers.
Queen's Park had 2 teams. I don't know if anyone spoke to you about this.
17s level, there was 2 teams, and there was seen as an A team and a B team, and me and Andy played in the B team together with much of the boys that went on to have better careers. Actually played in that team. Aidan Conley, who spoke to.
Back then, we just wanted to be professional footballers because we were part-time, getting paid in envelopes, Andy stayed round the corner for me, so he's probably getting 18 quid in an envelope a week.
Obviously, kind of coming out of school, do you go to college, do you go to university, do you try and get a job, and I think it's such an uncertain time for a lot of people, and I was no different when I was 18.
He was always prepared to do what was needed, whether it be in football or for a job. When he was playing in the academy and he was getting a bit older, he worked in Hampden with Brendan McElduff again in the Scotland kit room. He also worked in the commercial ticket office with Andy McGlennon, and he's done various jobs when he was younger because he was still playing part-time.
You obviously need money and you need to work and you need that work ethic, and I think that was important. I never wanted anything handed to me, and I always wanted to work for what I did, and thankfully it gave me a little bit of money to go and enjoy myself, but it also allowed me to put everything into that year to try and become a professional.
Shankland, Robertson, what a goal by Andy Robertson, what a goal!
I wish I had videos of it, but the amount of goals I must have tapped in for the front post when we were younger, it was incredible. He just used to hit the byline, front post, tap in. There was one really good picture, I think we played in the cup game against Partick Thistle, I think it was, and I'd scored a kind of long ranger, he's on my back celebrating just over there.
Steve Clarke has definitely found a template that works. We, in competitive football, have a terrific record.
In our time with the national team, there's been quite a lot of success, to be fair. I remember saying to him when we qualified for the Euros the first time, I was like, it's been a while for a Scotland captain's done that, and as modest as he is, he's kind of played it down.
The qualification campaign that I had inherited was a couple of games in when I took over. Wasn't a good campaign. We finished third in the group, which is what we were seeded to finish, but we couldn't break into the top two, so we had to go through the Nations League. We played Israel in a semi-final at Hampden. It was probably one of the poorest games you'll ever watch on telly because there was nobody there. We won it in penalties. You go to Serbia away, and probably no crowd in Serbia helped us because the atmosphere was strange. And we did the usual Scotland thing. We played fantastic in the game. We were 1-0 up, in complete control of the game. Really played really well and conceded a goal in injury time to go 1-1. Andy was going around everybody just saying, this is not over, this is not over, this is not over. And that's the sign of the captain. He knew how close we were, got to penalties and managed to come through on penalties, which led to what can only be described as one hell of a night. 2024 was a little bit different because we actually qualified when we were sitting in the hotel. We'd gone to play Spain away. They scored a good goal to get in front, and the lad Aaron Hickey slipped in the last minute, which made it 2-0 in the night. But we played really well. Went back to our hotel disappointed, but we knew that if Spain could beat Norway on the next match day, then we'd qualify. So we all sat together, we watched that game, and Spain managed to win. So we're in the hotel, and I said, lads, you can have a few drinks, a glass of champagne, because we were playing France in 2 days' time after that. So we had a friendly against France. And I'm thinking, with my professional head on, keep a lid on things. And then eventually the lads started, now we want to go out, and they started creating to get out, so I let them have a night on the town as well. If I had to rank the celebrations, I'd probably put the 2024 ones as the most unprofessional.
We used to play school football against each other. He'd be the Catholic school and I was basically the Protestant school. And Andy's a few years older than me, or 1 year older, so he was a right winger back then, and we used to always compete in the school football, but I'm only little, as you can see, and Andy used to just smoke me, and that was the first time I thought, oh,
We were lucky enough, Andy's family and my family had season tickets at Celtic.
You know, I'm 5, 6, 7, I'm a massive Celtic fan. My dream was to play with Celtic.
We didn't know each other, but we would give each other a wee nod at 10 and 11. I used to walk past his seat to the pie stall in the corner of the main stand at Celtic Park.
Me and him had season tickets at Celtic right next to each other, used to see each other, used to fight each other at Celtic St Mirren under 11s, under 12s games.
We used to play against each other regularly. At that point, he was a central midfielder for Celtic. I played as a little angry left winger, left back for St Mirren. Robbo was, at that point, he might laugh. He turned into a bit of a Jersey fella. So it wasn't much of a surprise hearing that they had decided he never had a future at Celtic.
Obviously, I was upset when I got, you know, when you get let go, it's never a nice feeling. But I always remember my mum and dad, you know, kind of taking me home. My auntie was waiting at the top of the steps for me. And yeah, she came and sat and had dinner with us. She turned to my mum and dad and she went, he's going to make it. I'm grateful that she managed to see me make it at Dundee United. Unfortunately, she passed away during that season and she didn't quite go on and see the journey that I really went on. But, you know, I know obviously she's up above somewhere watching over.
We'd been in France in '98, the Euros in '96 in England. We'd been in Sweden in '92. So all of it was kind of that's just what happens. Scotland go. Oh, next time? No. And then the next time we'll be there. No, that didn't happen either. And then it starts to become a thing.
It's not been great fun, to be totally honest. There's been some disastrous results, you know, draws with Estonia, draws with the Faroe Islands. You become almost a kind of laughingstock of international football.
Qualifying for the Euros were special that can't be taken away from us, but the performances were disappointing, and I think we knew we had much more to prove.
During this campaign, as they are, a lot of times for Scotland, there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs.
Going away to Denmark, getting 0-0 was massive at the start of the campaign. Going through the whole campaign, how it did, and so many times we were probably written off, like Greece away, we had a bit of a nightmare. Everyone thought we were done.
You go to Greece in the midweek and you get away with it a bit with the Denmark result not going the way they needed in their game, and I think everybody's focus was just on getting back to this game at Hampden and it being a one-off playoff really.
It's not easy being captain of your country. People think, oh, you just turn up every now and again, you pull on a captain's armband, you win a toss. There's responsibilities, there are big decisions that impact not only the immediate starting team, potential players coming into the squad, players that have previously been in the squad. It's a lot of people to keep happy.
How he brings the staff and players together, what he organises, how he makes everyone feel included. The reason we were so tight and the reason we won games that we did was the culture and what he done to the squad. We were in Turkey for the training camp. Rob organised a traitors game for everyone. Full players traitors game, so he was basically Claudia.
That's the exclusive. I'm actually chucking football and I'm going to be the new Claudia.
Everyone had like blackboards. There was 3 killings a day, so we had 3 different meetings a day. He had challenges. So like literally for that full week, every like 3 hours, like 22 boys round the round table, arguing, voting, laughing. The traitors had to meet in Robbo's room at night, tell him who was getting killed.
They had shields, key rings of the shields and all that, so that was really good. That actually, the level of organisation that it went into that, but that's the small things that you don't see much to people. But being a leader, just being able to organise that, getting everything right, and it really helps the boys kind of bond and be together.
Usually you go away to hotels, people are in their rooms, you train, you go to your room, you have dinner. But that trip was like, before we played Denmark, was like unbelievable. Everyone was together, and I just felt like how close we were, that there was something special going to happen that night.
McTominay scored within the first 5 minutes. It genuinely was one of the best goals I think I've ever been in a stadium to see, but it came so early. Scotland just invited the pressure.
It was 1-1, 2-1, 2-2.
You quite literally were in the World Cup 1 minute, out the World Cup, in again, out again.
But just the whole emotion of the full night, especially when they go level for the second time.
It was getting closer and closer and closer, and we were heading out, and then
I think we just had that bit of belief in us to go and qualify for the tournament, and obviously the two wonder goals at the end.
There was definitely an outpouring of emotion. Finally, after all of these decades, Scotland had managed to do it.
The biggest release as a Scotland fan that I can remember, and I was lucky enough to be there with my daughter, and we both just cried.
I think there's a moment at the end of the game where the camera pans onto Andy, and you can see he's just lost in the moment, just celebrating on his own. So not running to a teammate, not even celebrating with the crowd. I think we were all emotional that night, but maybe Andy a little bit more emotional than others.
We both lost important people in our life last year. So the emotion for us in that Denmark game was times about 100, and I think you could feel the relief.
Obviously the emotion in the game, the emotion then after the game, everything kind of came flooding back, and I would say that was probably the most emotional I've ever been after a football game.
I had a chat with Andy about that, and he said, Gaffer, you need to enjoy the high moments because they don't come along as often as you'd like.
If we drew that Denmark game 2-2, me and Robbo never playing a World Cup. It's probably as simple as that.
I can say from my experience, from what I've seen from him, like not just as my mate, but I don't think we qualify if he's not captaining there.
That feeling and the day after is something that you just can't buy, and something we'll remember forever.
I've known these lads since I was 10, 11, you know, we played against each other in youth academies, and then obviously we've been on a complete journey together, so like we are, you know, I'd consider them, you know, certainly most of them, you know, my best friends. Kenny McLean used to play against him, Ryan Christie, all these lads we then came up with, and then obviously we've now got the younger lads that are coming through, and we just take them on as our little brothers and things like that. John Suter shared a flat with, Lawrence Shankland played at Queen's Park with, so it's like, when all these moments happen, you just think, you know what I mean, these guys mean everything to me. And then to go and achieve something that the country hadn't achieved since 1998. Some people are in, you know, jobs 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and jobs that they don't enjoy or jobs that they don't like. And I'm very fortunate that something that was a dream of mine when I was 5 years old became a reality.
He doesn't like talking about his journey. That might never happen again, ever. Like that, going from part-time amateur football to winning Champions League and Premier League. So I'm like, mate, embrace it.
At our own supporters club, the strip that's most popular is Robertson 26. So there's a real legacy there. They're going to remember Andy being a hugely successful footballer, and hopefully take that back to their own schools and youth teams. And I think he's a legend.
He's probably going to go into probably the greatest Scotland team ever.
Andy Robertson as a player is the greatest asset I think that we've had.
Ogle Millie takes over the most appearances, doesn't he, from Dalglish. I hate comparing generations because it's completely different football. For me and what he's done for the nation, I don't think there'd be many people that would argue that. And certainly in the modern era, there'll be many come close to him at all.
I'd put him as Scotland's greatest ever captain, to be honest. For what he's went and achieved with a squad and being a party, he's right up there for me. So get the statue about his side.
I'm so happy for him, and I've never had the chance to say that to him, but I am delighted for him and his family as well, who I've known since I was a young pup.
You do get a feeling of satisfaction, but more so when you see him coming out, and playing in a European Cup final or winning a Premier League Championship, and you think, yeah, I knew Robbo when he hadn't out. And look at him now, he's flying. It's great.
Even though they got relegated, his performances at Hull inspired me to think I can go and compete in the Premier League.
I always remember my first session, I was so scared of what I was going into because I've been supporting Liverpool. I've watched all these boys on the TV, seen how good they are, and I always remember on my debut he came up to me and said, I've watched you 23s or whatever, just do what you've been doing. Things like that stick with you forever.
He's a manager's delight, absolute manager's delight.
He's a mood lifter, he's an energy giver, he's a great guy.
In moments where I might have needed picking up or whatever, or if I was feeling a bit down or whatever, Robbo was always one that could sense it and could give me like good energy to feel better and make sure that I was in a good place mentally.
Even out in training or in games, he gave us absolute all, and that's a credit to him and his family. He's been an unbelievable servant, and I think he should be seen as a legend of the football club.
When I think of it, you cannot imagine this team we had without him, and you don't want to. Having such an impact for such a long time makes you a really special player in the club's history, and not to forget this club has more history than most clubs. So it's so difficult to make that kind of impression.
The first one I remember seeing when I was a kid, and it was an iconic favourite at Anfield, was Joey Jones. Get the shin pads out, lads. One of them, proper, used to put his fist up.
And we would probably ask today, who is the best left back in the history of Liverpool?
Joey's succeeded by Barney Rubble, Alan Kennedy, run through a brick wall for you.
He's probably one of the best left backs ever at Liverpool.
Yeah, he's someone I idolised when I was younger. Every part of his game is unbelievable. He is a top fullback, and I think the best left back in the Premier League ever.
He's obviously the best left back I've ever seen, and probably will ever see in my lifetime.
For me, Andy Robertson's the greatest out-and-out left back we've ever had.
I think I've been very lucky along the way that I've had so many. I think, to start with, my mum and dad, my brother. My mum and dad had to trek me up and down the country, and sometimes my brother was left with my auntie and uncle, or left with my gran and granddad, or and things like that, because I had to be at football, and he had to make a lot of sacrifices as well as my mum and dad. So I think them for starters. Then when you go to Queen's Park, obviously Gardner Spears, the manager, had to, I've already mentioned Andy and things like that, but Gardner Spears, gave me an opportunity as a manager when I was only 18, 19, and put me straight into the team and played me pretty much every single game that season. And the same can be said at Dundee United for Jackie McNamara. Do you know what I mean? Obviously coming from Queen's Park, and then first game of the season throwing me in and never looking back. I needed these people to show me faith, and the thing is all my managers have done that to me. Steve Bruce, like we spoke about, showed me unbelievable faith at Hull. Marco Silva was amazing for me the last 6 months of my time at Hull. I think the step up to Liverpool would have been so much more if I didn't have Marco, because all of a sudden then I understood a foreign way of thinking, you know, in terms of which is very different to a British way of thinking in terms of managers. And I think Marco then took me to a whole new level in terms of my tactical understanding and everything like that. And I think I would have really struggled without him, you know, if I then went to Liverpool straight off the bat. And then obviously, you know, Jurgen, I don't think I need to say much more about him. You know, obviously he was like a second father really to me in terms of, you know, what he did for all of us and how he did. And I think the most important one will be my wife really, because without her nothing of it's possible. I'm going touring the world and playing in all these big games and internationally, being away for 10 days, 12 days. She's dealing with 3 kids in the house, running about ragged, having to get them to school, having to get them to, you know, after school clubs and all this. And yeah, a lot of times she's had to do it on her own, which if you don't have the support and you don't have the buy-in of the person, you know, that you love and the person that you're closest to, then I think it makes it a lot more difficult. And it's very hard to find that, you know, you have that understanding of, okay, you know, I'm achieving my dream, I'm going to live my dream, but also that she needs to make so many sacrifices along the way. And yeah, without her, I don't think the 9 years at Liverpool would have been as successful or as enjoyable for me.
But I think the best way to describe him is you'll hear him before you see him.
Initially, I think he was a bit choppier when I first went into the squad, so I thought, I'm not sure about this guy.
I remember one day we went to the races and we were getting on the bus and the experienced lads have asked Andy to carry on the beer, knowing that I would be absolutely wanting to rip his head off. And Andy was he was naive and he's whistling along and singing along, carrying these big crates of beer, you know. So I'm looking at him when he gets on the bus, and what are you doing? He went, I brought some beer for the lads. I said, you better get her off this freaking bus now, you know. And they were all laughing.
Going to Cheltenham as a team, obviously, because Jots went last year, we had to go again this year, so we went there, and even him sorting things out. Obviously my knee was bad at the stage, so he was sorting out different ways for me to get there easier and stuff like that. And the days we went to Cheltenham were some of the most special days I've had with him.
People were like, you know, what did you get paid back? And I was £18 a week. And they're like, 18? I was like, yeah, £18 a week. Do you know what I mean? And I used to have to, at that point, me and my brother shared a car, so 10 quid of it had to go into petrol a week, so I was only left with 8 quid. At that point I was 18, and obviously going out to town and things like that were quite tempting at the time, so yeah, the 8 quid then had to do me for that. So
we used to go to this nightclub in Glasgow called Cushion. It's his favourite and my favourite. We would chat away. My mates and his mates always got on well.
Well, everybody likes Robbo, you know what he like. He got short arms and deep pockets, by the way. When you see him, tell him to send me that tenner he owes me.
He's the first one to, you know, hammer me for everything, wind me up, slaughter me, and you need a bit of that in your life, and just to keep you normal and sane.
Even if it's taking the piss out of me, it's just, yeah, I'll miss it, and just his laughs, and I'll miss playing cards with him on away days and things like that. So I think next year it'll be difficult when he's not here.
I think his banter's improved over the years. He was a bit more serious. I've found his off button, so I know how to switch him off every now and again from serious mode.
Very kindly, he invited me to one of the big European nights and invited me into his box, and thought, wow, terrific for him.
He's somebody that I admire a lot, I've got a lot of time for, and somebody that I trust 100%. I'd definitely like to always be in contact with him and meet up for sure.
I think the main thing for Andy is he's got a good family behind him. I think that's important. He's his mum and his dad and his brother and stuff, he's got a good background there.
My missus loves Rach, I love Rach, the kids. We got on really well as a family, his mum and dad. Great, got on really well with my parents. They're just a great bunch of people, and Axel, my son, would love to go over and see Robbo's kids and see them. We still see them a lot now.
The family side, they've watched us play football with our kids all the way through, and obviously you go on your separate paths and he achieves in his career what he's achieved, and to get the moments where you come back here and you go into the lounge and it's the same mum and dads all chatting,
And obviously there's a lot of poverty at the minute in Scotland. Football is expensive, so Robbo's got a charity that gives free football to kids in Scotland where possible. He runs great events to fund this, works closely with Street Soccer Scotland, and that sometimes goes unnoticed. He's given back, he knows how it feels to just need a chance to go and prove something, and what they've done in that charity, it just seems to grow and grow every single year.